Hi guys, I'm not gonna lie to you. This is nerve wracking for me. I've never liked being on camera very much, and I do take pictures and selfies and whatnot. But I'm gonna lie to you, kind of nervous about it. I can tell you. I'll tell you a big story about that later. But there's a reason for it. I just really wanted to tell you how I found Jesus. And I just thought that was really important that I share that with you and in specific my church. I know that people have maligned my church. I mean, I don't know anybody who's been more maligned than my church, but I mean, it's just a trip. Although I do like that the controversy tends to bring truth seekers, people who are sincere. There are haters and whatnot, but you know, anyway, it's really hard to look at the camera. I don't know what that is. If you don't mind, I thought that I'd like, work on my nails or something. I tend to chew on, but that's because I'm under a lot of pressure. The fact of the matter is, and I've had so many people ask me, how is it that you take all this pressure? God, and only God. If it weren't for the power of Jesus Christ, I would never make it. Our Father Elohim really knew what he was doing when he sent us down here to this celestial boot camp, and I just have to tell you, I stand all amazed. By the way, that music in the background is from archive.org and is royalty free. So I just like to see them flag me over that. I've been in Facebook jail plenty of times. Oh, there go the bangs. Of course, you couldn't even imagine what it took, literally, to be able to get to this. To be able to film. I have a lot of witches working against me too, and so that doesn't help. And so I'm gonna do the best that I can. I'm gonna have to creep and crawl through it. I have a message, and it's super important. If it were just for me, it'd be one thing. But the fact of the matter is, the world needs saving. Not that I think I can do that. I know that Jesus, he atoned for our sins. That's literally where he. Every time I look, it's gonna be a mess. You wouldn't believe the floods that went on just trying to get this. I mean, the camera kept falling. The power kept going wacko. I'm not even using the ring light because all of a sudden it decided it wanted to be a gynecology light. It was so bright. Phone rang. People at the door. Couldn't find. I mean, it was just insane. It was a comedy of errors. Well, I gotta tell you, it has been quite a wild ride. My life, period. I really should have started at the beginning, but I think it's better if I tell you how I joined the church to start with because I think that would have a lot to do with what we're trying to pass on here. And as you can see, I'm just being so slow. Anybody who knows me will tell you that I generally have no problem talking. In fact, my kindergarten teacher, this is hilarious because I got an excellent report card, and she said Jamie is a delight to teach if only she would learn to control her talking habits. And still hasn't happened. The fact is that my parents did get a divorce after a very rocky marriage. I'm going to withhold that one story out of respect for my mom for now, but and I love you, mom. I really do. I'm so sorry that you and I just never clicked. In fact, I think it's one of the few times I've ever called her mom. I always call her mother. It's been very formal, and there's been a lot. Some people would say. So anyway, when my mother left, I was really looking for a mom. I was ready to adopt anybody for a mom, and which is kind of interesting because I was blessed with some really incredible people who tried to play a surrogate, and even my teacher, Ms. King. I mean, it's just ironic. And anyway, I liked this boy named Scott Colton, and his brother Eddie liked me. I like Eddie; he's very nice. But as far as attraction was concerned, I really liked Scott. And so one of the days I was hanging out after school, I saw Miss Colton out. I think she was putting laundry on the line. And you name it, Meyer. I should just stop looking at myself because I'm gonna definitely overwork it. So anyway, what ended up happening, I do that with my paintings sometimes, where I just get so into it, I overdo. I've been the type that works himself out of a job. Truly, truly. Often I've gotten hired for things where it was a by the hour thing, or they expected it to take much longer. I'm just not a slacker, and when I'm working, time just flies. Especially when I'm doing my anything with politics or religion or history, it just the time flies. I can't tell you how many times I've sat down and I feel like an hour or two's gone by, and people are like, "Hello," it's 6 hours later. I'm like, "Eh." That's another thing that God does for me. It's so cool that when I'm having a really hard time or I'm suffering or I mean, I've almost died so many times. It would break your heart. Maybe my hair. Meanwhile, I'm gonna knock that off. Vanity. Uh, so but when I'm having a good time, God slows time down. That's kind of neat because for most people, when you're suffering, time slows down. And in my case, when I'm suffering, time is vastly accelerated. I'll literally think it's been like a half hour. And so it's neat how God does these weird adjustments for me. Because when I'm having a great time, I'll think I've been there an hour and it's been 15 minutes, and I was like, wow, that's cool. So, and I do like that. Okay, so anyway, I saw Scotty's mom and I got to talking with her. And she asked if I would go to church or if I'd like to go to church with them. And I was like, sure. We were always allowed to go to church. My parents were foolish. They're like, well, we're going to let them pick their own religion. You got to have some kind of a framework. What am I going to do without in fact, when I did join the church, I asked my husband, I said, please teach me more about the church. I had this just hunger for knowing more. I like to know the rules. I'm a merit ladder girl where if you tell me the rules, I'll be at the top. And unfortunately, I grew up with a lot of inconsistency. But he's like, so what do you want to know? And I was like, I don't even know. How do you ask a question if you don't know the subject matter? And so I found out later that he didn't want me to know about the church because he wanted to just empower me. And I believe that's what's happening. Anyway, I'm going to stay out of that. That is so not my area. Stay in my lane, and I'm going to back out of that big pile of poo while I can. Meanwhile, the fluctuation of light that you see is my TV in the background. Oh boy. Okay, so anyway, Dad let us go to any church. So he was single at the time. Well, he was permanently single after my mom. It was so funny. He just wouldn't even hire anyone to work for him that was female, just in case my mom got this idea, that he was into something else because he literally wanted her to be able to come home at any time. And he used to literally I'm over delivering, but I can be redundant when I'm nervous. I'd love to tell you that I've calmed down, but nope. And I'm 8 minutes into this and still. Brrr. Meanwhile, it was so funny because you could talk to Dad and say, "How are you?" And literally, like the third sentence would be from Dad. So how's your mother? He just was so in love with her. And I will tell you guys their story in a succeeding video because now they're started. God doesn't want me to stop, and I guess that's the best way to stay able to do it, because I get nervous. Um, anyway, I asked Dad. I said, "Hey, can I go to church with the Coltons?" And he's like, "Sure." And he goes, "By the way," I mean, it's like an afterthought. By the way, what religion are they? And I couldn't remember. I was like, nah. And Dad goes, "They're not Mormons, are they?" And I was like, "Yeah." Well, I never saw her again until literally I was married. And went to the Pasadena Third Ward, I think it was, or Pasadena Second. And could you believe it? Literally, here we go again. Scott Colton was being returned from his mission. That was just wild to me. It was like such divine timing. My whole life has been nothing but divine timing. God has delivered me so many times, and I'd be remiss, honestly. I'd be a jerk if I didn't witness for the Lord and if I was ashamed of Him. I'd like to tell you that I'm ashamed of me. You know what I mean? It's like I don't. I guess I see something different than what other people see, and so because I'm like, ugh. Anyway, you know how it is. We're always very critical of ourselves. So what ended up happening is, my adopted dad is black. I can't wait till I tell you the whole story. Maybe I'll even like release that one first. But I just really wanted to start with my testimony because I am so not playing with you. So anyway, that was kind of a fun, and I was an egghead, genius, blah blah blah, and was raised at JPL and whatnot. And so I went to this place called Kirby Center, and it took really good care of us. It was run by the government, and pretty much everybody was like a junior genius. And I think with the whole methodology was to take our little minds and keep us from becoming like Luther. They much more preferred an Albert Schweitzer type. And it was a great place. I'll go in depth into Kirby another time, but there was a lady that worked there that said that she was Mormon. And so every day I asked her for a Book of Mormon, and I kid you not, every day the devil would get in the way, and I could see the shock and awe on her face. I could see her own personal disgust at herself for not bringing it, because I certainly had plenty of time to read it. And long story short, that started showing me a pattern because I was like, wait a minute, every time I at this point I was getting curious, what's this church about that it's so forbidden and verboten, as Daddy would say, and now this woman goes to church, and she just never remembered. Now that I'm a grown up and I see life, boy, can the devil distract. And I'll be honest with you, he so much to the bank. Um, he really works hard. We don't remember him. We don't remember all the stuff that went on, but boy, does he know us. It's not even funny and it's not cute. So I started seeing this pattern. Well, I keep, oh wow, see, I felt a big, you wouldn't believe it. I get a constant attack. Obviously, I'm doing the right thing. The thing is that when I experience opposition like that, I'm not going to kid you. I get very curious. And I do have an insane curiosity about everything. Dad used to call it. Dad used to say, "You suffer from nose trouble," and I can't say he's wrong. But at Kirby, they really instilled in us that we were the future superheroes of the world, and that that it was up to us to change the world for better. And my favorite song, one of my favorite songs actually, is the Superman song. I don't know if you know it, and forgive the music in the background, but it goes, Superman never made any money, saving the world from Simon Grundy. And sometimes I despair the world will never see another man like him. I mean, this is a cool song. But the thing so I'm getting curious. Everywhere I moved after I grew up, it was awful. It was just awful. I have a very bad, you know, it's gonna probably shake some of your roots, and I am definitely saying buckle up, Buttercup, because it's a wild ride. But anyway, it's funny because I find myself wanting to say certain things, and then thinking, wait, I better wait on that, give these people milk before meat. The church definitely teaches that. This is the true church of Christ. Go ahead and laugh if you want to. I'm going to tell you how I know. So anyway, anybody who comes to my door in the name of Jesus Christ, I let them in so that I can hear what they have to say. And should they be incorrect, or I've always had such a close relationship with divinity. When I was a kid, they thought that my imaginary friends, they were actually angels. And at first I told people that they were my angels, and then people started like putting into me, no, they're imaginary. Anyway, but I always did talk to God because at least Daddy used to pray over, and at the end we would do the cross and kiss, and twice. Sometimes Dad would pray so long, the food would be cold. And it was funny because we'd be hungry sometimes. Him being a single father, there were times we didn't have dinner until midnight. But you know what? I don't resent a bit of it. Meanwhile, Dad would literally, and food is so good when you're hungry. And he's an excellent cook, oh my word. And so he'd go like, Lord, we truly humbly thank you for the food we have and about to receive. And we're all trying not to laugh. And you know how it is. When you're trying not to laugh, it's going to be so much worse. So what ended up happening is I always was really close to God, and I listened for him. So I had the missionaries come and lost that job. This is shortly after my first child was sacrificed. It's very sad, and it hurt me deeply. The father was a scientist that was also from Kirby. We were told we weren't supposed to meet up on the outs, but we did. And he was quite brilliant. And his career didn't mean much to him. So anyway, I mean, his career meant way more to him. Well, what ended up happening, and he never really was into God anyway. So what ended up happening is, oh, this is going to bug. So anyway, what ended up happening is I went to the judge that was in charge of my case because a lot had happened, and you guys need to know all of that. And it's not going to be in chronological order. You're going to be bouncing around, which is good because then you'll know that I'm telling you the truth. Because I can't remember what I said 5 minutes ago sometimes. And that's why I always tell people don't lie, because if you do, you're not going to remember what you said. That's why I feel so sorry for narcissists, because they tell different lies and have a different persona with each person. And their life is a living nightmare trying to figure it out. By the way, facebook.com/NAS family, no spaces. Narcissistic abuse survivors. I also wrote a book, How to Break Free from a Predator. Uh, yeah, anyway, I'll tell you more later. Meanwhile, I do feel sorry for them though, because their life is a living nightmare, trying to keep all these stories straight. And that's why a lot of times their aggression levels are pretty high, and their ability to deal with anger is pretty low. So what ended up happening is I was in El Monte, and I heard a mirror fall off the door in the next room right after the Jehovah Witness missionaries said they were really closing the deal. So do you want to get baptized? And I was just about to say, sure. And right then we heard that mirror fall, and it was Keith. I was living with a biker at the time. I thought I was being this big, bad grown up. I was emancipated. I went to my judge, as I started to say, and I didn't ask for it, but I told him what had happened. And he'd always been the closest person to me besides my parents. In fact, my dad wasn't allowed to visit anymore, and my mom had no desire whatsoever. She did, however, bring me some things, which I thought was nice, but by the same token, I was told that she probably did it more for aesthetics, more for how it looked than what, the actual feeling behind it. I love my mom very much, but yeah, I basically ruined her life according to her. So, and we'll get all into that. Anyway, getting back, yeah, I found out later that dad. So anyway, the judge, when I told him about what they did to the baby, and I mean, they had to close the whole place down because I just lost it. And I was screaming to everyone, they killed my baby. I mean, they had to close that whole place off because of what I might infect. Truth. Meanwhile, um, he literally told me to follow him, and went back in his chambers, and he pulled some papers out and had me sign them. And I was like, okay. And I went to leave. I didn't know what it was. I always trusted him so much. And he said, no, I want you to look at that. And I looked at it, and I thought I knew what I was looking at. And, anyway, he emancipated me on the spot. And he literally said, look, I've observed you for years, and you have more sense than anybody in your family, adult or child. And I thought that was so sweet. In fact, he asked me when I went before him initially, had I ever considered being an attorney. We staged an escape from McLaren Hall because I had seen the kids being abused. If you look up McLaren Hall in El Monte, California, you will find what I'm talking about. And it's supposed to be a place for abused and abandoned children, but I found out that it's kind of being doled out there. So I planned this big escape, and I'll tell you the whole thing another time because it's quite a show. I mean, it is. It's like a movie. So, anywho, what ended up happening is he said, have I ever thought of going to law school? And I always thought of lawyers as paid liars. And because, with my parents' divorce and whatnot. So I told him a definitive no. He said he'd even sponsor me through law school, which now I know means he's going to actually pay for it. He said that his law library was at my disposal. And he was the only person who was to visit me while I was in state care. A lot happened. Anyway, this is so distracting to me to see a timer on there. So I've already been here almost 20 minutes, and it feels like 5. And that's what I tell you guys. Whenever I work, the time just flies, and don't get me to talking. Meanwhile, so I did get emancipated early. I'm living in El Monte, and I'm thinking that I am just so grown. I couldn't bear to live with a father after that. And it was funny because when I called my friend Matthew, who's passed on now, I think he was waxed by one of my exes because I don't know if you ever watched Sons of Anarchy, but bikers really came through for me. They were the ones who extracted me from a very abusive household to begin with. And then later, these are the Pick Apart crew. My dad owned part of Pick Apart. And so anyway, what happened was Matthew came and got me. Matthew Hutton the third, one of the coolest, kindest people ever, and he reminded me of David Cassidy, only cuter. And when I go in, my dad taught me how to fix cars. One day he said, "Baby, you're gonna have a man because you want one, not because you need one." And so he taught me how to build a house from the ground up, paint it, plumbing, electrical, grass. I can lay carpet, you name it, and fixing cars, as I said. And I even had every Tonka truck known to man. And no, you cannot destroy them. You could with a car crusher, I'm sure. I used to it would break my heart watching them crush those cars, man. Anyway, so, see, the devil. Meanwhile, it is quite late, but I woke up late on purpose. Meanwhile, so what ended up happening, I kind of have to step past the witching hour. I'll tell all this later. So, anyway, I was staying at Keys at this point, and he actually had parked his motorcycle in the living room. Well, needless to say, the gas smell was horrendous, but he was so cool because he took it out once I lived there. Later, I found out that Dad was actually paying them to babysit me, and that was kind of cute because he had a friend who had a bar, a couple of bars, the Jolly Jug and Dude's Bar, I think. And when I go in, they'd always play that song, Lord Have Mercy, Baby's Got Her Blue Jeans On. I thought that meant that I was so cool or whatever, and, this is my song. But actually, what it was a signal to everyone, the kids here ditch anything hard, you know what I mean? And Dude would make me these awesome drinks that had nothing to do with alcohol, but I felt so schmancy, you know what I mean? And so it was pretty neat, and I felt good about myself. Meanwhile, that mirror meant a lot to Keith. He really liked it. It was a lady. It was actually just an etching in a mirror. And she's like at this, pose. I used to always try to pose myself in her body and be mad if it didn't fit, which now I know is absolutely nuts. But when I heard that thing fall, I was like, holy moly. So we ran in there to see if it was okay. It was absolutely unmarred in any way, shape, or form. But those missionaries or, the Jehovah Witness guys, they left and they didn't even ask another question. Once they saw what it was, they left, and I never saw them again, which reminds me of the time that my mom, this is in Altadena, California. We're at 976 Shelley Street. I'll be doing a book of that name. It'll be called 976 Shelley. Anyway, she'd gotten some props in KTTV where they worked at the time. Now it's Fox, I think it's Channel 11. And the Jehovah's Witnesses would wake us up early in the morning on Saturday, and that just used to make my mom so unhappy. So they literally got this big stage cauldron, and this is before everybody knew the lowdown on dry ice and all that good stuff. And I kid you not, when they came, full-blown stereotypical witch outfit, which looks just like anybody. I look like a witch. Okay, naturally I'm a witch, but we'll talk about that later. I'm the first child of the first times 7, so I was supposed to get massive witchcraft. I used to take beatings as a child for watching Bewitched and Genie because I like the mortal way, okay? And so, anyway, I was supposed to get this incredible power, and my mom was like usurping my childhood. She has me to this day, and I believe right now she's doing more. I mean, we'll get more depth into that. I'm getting all nervous about that, too. I really want to tell you how I joined the church. And so, but it was neat. When the Jehovah's Witnesses came to the door, my mom literally opened the door right before they got there because they were waiting on them. And her friend was like stirring it. I think it's Linda McQuell. And she's like stirring the pot. And my mom opens the door and says, "Oh, hello, yes," because they always have the Watchtower and Awake magazines, which I like. They're little paper things, that way they get like a little bit of donation. And she's, "We've been waiting for you," and they're all stirring the pot. I kid you not. Those guys busted a run to their car and never came back. I come to find out that they're pretty superstitious. So anyway, when the missionaries didn't come back the next day from the Jehovah's Witnesses in El Monte, I pretty much knew they weren't going to come back after my experience with Mom. And I kid you not, the very next day when I was looking for them, the LDS missionaries came on. LDS stands for Latter day Saints. Thing is, these aren't the latter days anymore, hon. These are the last days. I know that firsthand. Also, a saint is not someone who's already perfected. Now, perfect does not mean flawless, it means complete. And what's complete for you might not be what's complete for me, you know? I mean, come on, give us a break. And the Lord said, be ye therefore complete, as your brother is. And what that meant was, once it was all said and done, he was given his divine powers according to the keys he was given by his responsibility levels. And some people just don't need certain keys. So what ended up happening is I really enjoyed learning these discussions. Actually, the very first time I got into discussions, all of us had lied to our parents. I didn't have to. My mom was a party mom at this point. I was living in Palmdale, California with her. Major other movies in between. And so what ended up happening is the missionaries came to the door, and we had it all: sex, drugs, rock and roll. We were having a blast, and everybody had lied to their parents that they were at my house, and we're actually at Corey's house. It was a guy, and like I said, you name it, we're having a blast. And the doorbell rings, and some idiot turned off the music, and now they know we're in there. And so I'm not scared of anything or anybody. My mom's cool, you know, she'll have any dread of society in the house. And so I went and opened the door, and it was two undercover cops. And I was like, oh gosh. And then I still thought we were so stupid because both of them have the very same first name, Elder. And so, I mean, I had an Uncle Elmer and Uncle Elgin. So I figured Elder was a name. And remember, at this point, I did not have a lot of churching. And when I did like the Baptists and stuff that I went to, they were like, I'm dancing for the Lord on the floor, you know, I mean, literally dropping to the floor and going in circles. One lady's boob fell out. I found it traumatic myself. But I was willing to give it a try, and I knew that I needed to find something out. I was actually at Science of Mind Church, and they were doing Sunday school. And she mentioned Jesus or something, and I was looking out the window at these beautiful birds, and they just happened to be dead. And I was like, is Jesus real? And like I said, I always talk to God. And I mean, I just felt this tingle come over me, and it's like, he is more real than you are. And I was like, wow. So after that, I really felt I should open my home and find out more. You know, I really felt like it was hiding from me, like no one would tell me. And that's why I'm on camera right now. So I am not a camera lover. And just so you know, I will never feel like I'm anything but less than perfect. Even my arms, you'll notice. Now I lost a massive amount of weight, and that's because I was homeless literally 8 years. I had to be for my safety's sake. It's been ugly, and you guys will get to know the whole story, you know. And I would really like it if you guys would share these stories, you know, with other people. You know, how I say, like and share, subscribe, or whatever. I'm not even on yet, so. But you know, if that happens, awesome. Uh, and I'm sure it's great good karma and blessings. So anyway, like I said, everywhere I moved, the missionaries would come from me. Oh, let me finish the party. This is great. So we bring the missionaries in. We think they're cops, so we let them in. And they literally had to have been talking to us for a good 20 minutes before we realized these people really aren't cops. They're from this church, you know? And we didn't have any prejudice against the church. And I certainly didn't know that they were Mormons because they had tags that said Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Saints. Getting back to the word saint. A saint is not someone who's already perfect, okay? And perfect means complete. As I told you, it doesn't mean flawless. Where would we be if Marvel didn't have its flaws? We love Marvel. So anyway, we talked for a while. We ended up keeping those missionaries for like 3 hours, okay? And when and the stuff they were saying us, if we felt like we were remembering it, you know. And they actually asked if they could come back. And Corey pointed to a beautiful white dress that was hanging from one of the hooks in the ceiling where normally a plant or a lamp would be. He said, "You see that dress up there?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "That's my sister's confirmation dress." They were Catholic. He goes, "My parents would be way more mad that you were here then," and I didn't understand what he was saying at the time, then all this other stuff, because we had booze and cigarettes and pot and all this stuff. And it was funny because when the missionaries left, literally, we threw it all out just as a sign to God that we know what we heard was true. I mean, come on, it was just resonating with us, and we were finishing their sentences. God really, the spirit was so thick you could have cut it with a knife. And so I thought when I come to my house, because like I said, my mom will let anybody in there. We had so much stuff spilled in the way of booze that the carpet squished. The table, which I think was like $800 or something at the time in the 80s, was warped, from the spillage. And so anyway, they come in and we're watching the film strip machine. That's how long ago this was. And to get the next discussion through. And my mom comes home, and I mean, she just blew her stack and chased them out the door and threw their little film strip machine and cracked it. And I mean, I wanted to go replace it. And they're like, hey, you know what? Ain't no thing but a chicken wing because they were used to this. So I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. And again, like I said, no matter where I moved, there was always a disconnect. So finally, we're at the last stage. I'm living in Arcadia, and I'm taking classes of the block program at Pasadena City College, and I had been chosen to go to a semester by semester scholarship at Oxford. And I would have been the first girl in our history and the first kid in our generation to go to Oxford. And you had to go through quite a bit to get this. And it's the crappy semester. Nobody wants to go there during summer. But the plan was if I ace summer, then I can come back in fall. So I was going to do the semester by semester. And then I was going to join the Peace Corps for 2 years. I was going to come home. And at the time, I think it was Growing Pains was my favorite show. And I have a lot of favorite shows, but they're usually, I love. Uh, I mean, I would literally travel far and wide to see my three sons and stuff like that. Um, Classic television just is my crack, and so it was hilarious because I was going to set up a practice in my basement. Real smart, bring a nut to the house with my kids upstairs because I was going to have a family upstairs. And downstairs was going to be my practice. And boy, did God have a different idea. So anyway, in order to get this scholarship, I had to do an essay as to what I would get out of the program, what I would, contribute to humanity. I had to have the local officials and Mahas doing written endorsements for me. The family was, of course, very excited, especially Dad. And so anyway, the Lockerbie Scotland student exchange. There's a bunch of students on the plane, and the plane was bombed. At least that's what we think. And so anyway, I had a rush of fear come over me, and I was like, Lord, am I going to be safe if I go there? And God said, I don't want you to go there. I have something very different for you to do. Now, this put me in quite a conundrum because I'm like, what is this, Mishkas? I mean, usually when God, almost every time that God and I could be in, which was like pretty much several times a day, I always felt cool with it. But this time I was like, now what do I do? Because, people are going to be so disappointed in me. Well, God told me right then and there not to care what people say because they don't have to live in my skin, okay? That made a lot of sense to me. And so, and I'm kind of that way today, and it drives people crazy because they try to find ways to blackmail me and pick on me. And I'm like, look, I have to be an open book, especially now because the veracity of my story depends on my credibility. And I want to make sure that people, if I didn't live it, guys, I wouldn't believe it either. I'll just be honest with you. I wouldn't believe me in a minute. That's why God always tells us that we have to get things out of the mouths of two witnesses or more. And unfortunately, the Covens and whatnot, they cover for each other. And look how they screwed Cosby. Not to be mean, but I have a friend here in jail, completely unjustifiably. It just really breaks my heart. His name is Dale Heath. He's a chiropractor, and because it was a Joseph situation. Because he wouldn't do a lady, she and her old coven got together and made him look like poop. Dale was a very holy guy. He could have any girl he wanted. So gorgeous. Even I thought he was amazing. And he had a girlfriend. Her name was Jerry. She was to die, but she wouldn't join the church. And he ended up marrying a school teacher looking lady. And everybody's like, what the heck? But he knew she had a heart of gold, and they went on to have incredible family, several children. I'm sure he was a stellar dad, and Just like so many others, the devil wiped his little booty out and he's sitting in jail totally unjustifiably. So anyway, I didn't know what to do. So the missionaries came the next day. This is again Arcadia, California, and not even a 2-minute walk from the San Diego racetrack. They came in. So anyway, I'm taking the discussions. All is well. And one day, I was quite the debater. I grew up in a family that, let's just say, mendacity was a normal side dish. And they also believed that if you said something long enough and loud enough, that it became true, And so you kind of get that when you have a magical background. So what ended up happening is I was debating with Elder Steele, and he literally looked like he had tears in his eyes. Because I go, dude, you're so fucked in the head. I'm sorry, but that's how we talked in LA to our friends. Still do, probably. And that really hurt his feelings because he's not from LA. He's from Idaho. And actually, he's from Calgary. It was the other missionary that was from Idaho. Anyway, long story short, they're not used to being treated like that. And like I said, with tears in his eyes, well, he's misting over. He said, would you at least pray about it? Would you at least ask God if the church is true? I'm like, sure, dude, whatever floats your boat, And I kid you not, several hours later, I was literally sitting on the toilet. Go ahead, laugh. I don't care. Again, like I said, my life is embarrassing, but by the same token, the truth is the truth is the truth. And if I'm telling the truth, it'll set me free. I can't get caught up. I don't want to get caught up in a line, look like a fool, because then everything I said will be called into question and just too much is riding on it. So I said, okay, Lord, I'm going to ask, I told this poor fool that I would ask if this is the only true church upon the ground, on earth. And we know that's just not mathematically possible. I couldn't conceive of such a thing with how many people have been born, with, yada nada, and geographic. And God got my little booty in check. You think I'm playing? He goes, look, this is my true church. And you insulted the missionary. And you will apologize to him. I want you to join this church. Well, I'd already been looking into quitting smoking because in my family, smoking is a rite of passage. It just says that you're an adult. I can drink coffee now. I can smoke. You're 21, you can drink, haha. And actually, my family at 18, you can do whatever you want because my dad's ideology was if you can die for your country, then you should be able to have a beer. But by the same token, he had a huge request, and that was whatever it is that you're going to do, please do it in the house. He just didn't want us doing it anywhere else. Club, friend's house, nothing. Just be home. And Dad kicked a really tight rein on the home. So in trying to quit smoking, I called around. One place was Chick-fil-A, I think it was. And forgive my arms. Like I said, I lost a massive amount of weight, and I haven't had time to tighten them up yet. But the weight was only lost in a matter of very few months. I was under witchcraft at the time. They were so trying to kill me. I'll tell you guys all that story later. So what ended up happening is the main thing was that I felt that they kept you too broke to buy the cigarettes. I don't know if they actually taught you how to say or even quit. This is like $5,000, and this is like in the 80s. And I was like, well, because God was like, I want you to join the church. And I was like, how am I going to quit smoking? It's too expensive. And he goes, look, if you won't join the church, you won't even want to smoke. And you go apologize to that missionary. So actually, we didn't even have an appointment. They just dropped by because I always kept snacks and drinks for them. And they just dropped by to see how I was doing. They're just really cool, warm, friendly people. And I totally witnessed to him. God told me I better apologize to you because the church is true. And I'm going to get baptized. And I'm telling you, this dude busted out crying. And I'm like, dude, and I'm not, come on, I came from a very miserable background. I don't think I'd ever seen anybody cry from happiness before. And he's like, and I'm like, dude, I wanted to hug him. And he's like, no. But he was having a crisis of faith because he had prayed that God would tell me the church was true. And he just didn't seem to be getting anywhere with me. You know what I mean? And he was really ready to leave his mission, because the truth of the matter is, if you don't know what you're teaching is true, if you don't know 100% in your heart that this is true, if you go on a mission to satisfy social obligation and make your parents happy, you're guilty of priestcraft just as much as somebody teaching witchcraft. And so he was having a crisis of faith and ready to go home. He's going to cancel that mission. And I was like, don't you dare. Anyway, the day of my baptism, which was pretty quick because I wanted those discussions back to back. And so he says, living with Joe at the time, he's passed. He even asked, I think it's President Coleman came to our house. He wrote, Who Are the Mormons? And we live together, and you're not supposed to live together unless you're married because it gives the appearance of sin, and they don't want the church to be represented like that, because the church has no problem. And what ended up happening is Joe was even willing to build a wall because he didn't want to live alone. So he's like, what if I build a wall and make two separate doors? And that way, technically, it's two places. And it was so neat because President Coleman kind of interrupted him and said, what I'm hearing here is what can I get by with? Not necessarily how can I serve the Lord. Boy, did he know what to say to me. I was moved out the next morning. And my friend, Debbie Ewing, she wouldn't take no for an answer. She told me, she goes, you're going to live with me. And it's funny because the way she found the church was she was just driving down the freeway, and the building was so beautiful and so bright white. It was almost blinding. So she just stopped there to see what that building was. You know what I mean? So I moved in with her. And like I said, 5 days after my baptism, one of my girlfriends needs a job. And it was amazing because I went to get the number for Golfland. Candy, I was going to have her, because I know Joe would have hired her in parties and stuff like that for, birthdays and whatnot. It was miniature golf and a nice arcade. Let me tell you, this girl is quite the gamer. And so, as I opened my thing, I'm like, Kathy, I haven't been smoking. And my girlfriend, she just laughs. And all of them start laughing. And they go, we know. We just didn't want to remind you. Because if they'd have told me how well I was doing, I would have totally had the craze. And so the day of my baptism, this place is like the Taj Mahal of the church. It is so beautiful. Like I said, Debbie even was like almost blinded from the freeway. And she just felt such a calling to go there. And it's like right off the freeway by Pasadena, San Gabriel, So what ended up happening off of 210? So what ended up happening is I got there, and like I said, it's so beautiful that we have like this thick powder blue plush carpet and white wood benches. Everything was very expensive. The steeple President Cofer bought, and people started joking, calling it Cofer's Castle. So after that, we had to go on the United Order because God doesn't want us to have a castle in one country and a hut in another. He wanted things to be a little bit more equal, because you can get the reputation of being bougie too. So what ended up happening is I'm in a singles ward at the time with some of the finest guys ever, and I'm sick as a dog and wanted to yak. And I'm like, I gotta go home. I wasn't feeling good. I'm even feeling kind of icky now thinking of it. And my girlfriend said, you can't go, you can't go. You won't be able to get baptized. You have to wait for people to do your work after you die. Yeah, if you die and someone does your work, they can posthumously baptize for you, even seal to a mate and get married. Boy, are you guys gonna have fun learning about this. But just know God has made a way for you, me, and everybody from the very beginning, even Adam and Eve. And please don't be mad at Eve. Today, somebody's picking on Eve again. I'm like, if she hadn't done what she did, we were sent here to fall so that we would learn how to get up again. And this is Celestial Boot Camp. And I'm going to teach you a lot about celestial mechanics. The word gospel means good news. The good news is God made a way, and he's always on time. So anyway, I'm sorry that I bounced around so much. So anyway, but they will all, connect later. And, hey, that means you got to pay attention. And if you're not willing to pay attention, you're lost. So I feel like I'm going to throw up. I want to go home. And they're like, no, you can't go. You're going to have a car accident. You Mormons have an answer for everything. Fine. Dip me, dunk me, send me home. I was like really angry because I am a free agency person. The war in heaven was not over sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It was over free will. So we all have this massive, most of us have this pull towards doing what we want to do. Even if it's something great, we don't want somebody telling us we got to do it. My favorite meal, I loves me a steak. Sometimes I'm not in the mood for that. We all love cake. Well, a lot of us love cake, but there are times that The last thing you want is cake. So anyway, I changed into these clothes and I dipped my foot in the water, because the baptismal font. And I felt this rush of health, vigor, and vitality like I had never felt in my life. Okay. I mean, I felt super health. And I couldn't believe it. So I got baptized. It's all great. And I'm at the, post bliss. I go up there and there's my grandmother, my Jewish grandmother. She shouldn't even be on the property, okay? She could be blackballed from her friends. When I joined the church, they said Shiva for me, which is like a funeral. And she literally got up and to speak. And I was like floored. I mean, it was so surreal. And she's like, I just wanted to say a few words. To this day, I don't know who called her or how she got there. I just feel in my heart that God is telling me now that this is exactly where He wants my granddaughter. I know this is true. And I'm just sitting here just in awe. And she's like, now this is not my religion. She's all, but I do love that you don't do the drugs and you don't do the alcohol. And she really liked that, just as far as her father died of emphysema, I believe it was, in lung cancer from smoking. And he literally was paying people $100 bills in the 50s to bring him a cigar or a cigarette. They were with government. That's all a big story too. That side was saying to start communism. I'll tell you about that. So anyway, my parents met at a communist meeting. So what ended up happening is that was amazing. And then I told you about not even knowing that I quit smoking until like 5 days later. Now you gotta get, for a minute, see it from my eyes. Everything I did was a cue to smoke. Okay, after I ate, after lovemaking, when I got in the car, when someone would come over, there was just so many cues to smoke, wake up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom, have a cigarette, go back to bed. So how did I forget that I was even a smoker? And if it hadn't been for those Marlboro Light 100s coming out, I just don't know how I would have even, the whole thing is wild. And, it's funny because, from the moment from the moment I was interested in the church, there's been constant opposition. After joining the church, I've had the most glorious moments you're ever gonna believe. I'll tell you, if you looked at my life in one way, you go, holy cats, that's the most terrible thing I've ever heard in my life. And then on the other hand, I have the best life of anyone. I dare you to find somebody happier than I am. But then I have come to find out that by suffering, we do find wisdom and joy. Those are two things that are very elusive if you don't have suffering. Like I said, wait till you're hungry. Food tastes real good. And being that I come from multi-generational witchcraft on both sides, coming from the dark, I very much knew the light when I saw it. Light is very strong. You can have a candle 50 miles away, and if there's no obstruction, that candle can be seen 50 miles away. That's just wild to me, but it's the truth. Light always overpowers dark, and we are exponential in our efforts. I cannot believe I've been talking for 48 minutes. Meanwhile, I can tell you this much, that truth is truth, and it should resonate with you. Anyone who's honest in heart will pick up on truth. Especially from my Patriarchal Blessing said that. I'll do my Patriarchal Blessing next. Again, I'm just really shocked that this went this long already, and I feel like I've barely got into it, like 5 minutes. So do know that I'm going to have show after show after show show to tell you about this fascinating life. Thank you, Lord. I mean, I stand all amazed. The Lord seriously has some mercy. I come from wow. And so I do know the church is true. I know that Jesus lives and is walking around right now. He doesn't have to walk if he doesn't want to. He's a powers like God, who can be a burning bush. God is our Father. His name is Elohim. We also have a mother. Her name is Imah. And Jesus is our brother. I've had it told to me that the Holy Spirit is the last baby that will be born. The Spirit spends, okay, I don't want to start crying on you guys, but the Spirit spends all day with me. Whenever I care to turn around and notice, there it is. There it is. And I mean, my life has been saved time after time after time after time. I'm going to tell you some things that are just going to blow your mind. Fortunately, most of it's documented, because like I said, if I didn't live it, I wouldn't believe it. Um, it's been a really wild ride. And, if you're still with me at this point, you must really have something good in you, and you must recognize truth when you hear it, even if it comes out badly and weird, like I am. And I'm gonna get much smoother. I'm gonna work really hard. I'll pray about it, and I thought I'd get on YouTube and maybe study a little bit how to do it. I was on children's television. I did a lot of stuff when I was a kid, but I wasn't really aware of it, and so now I'm like, ugh. I was gonna do my nails. Too nervous to do it. I do need to have something besides these feet-looking things at the end of my arms. Femininity is quite important. Keeps everybody happy and cheerful. I like looking at pretty girls. I'm not gay, even a little bit. Homosexual. When did happy become homosexual? But okay, Liberace is what I think of gay. He's very flamboyant, but I'm not sure he's homosexual per se. And I adore any and all people, whatever your. I shouldn't even know what your sexual preference is, to be honest with you. It's not my business, and I don't know why anybody would advertise it. But so anyway, getting back, I gotta explain the rainbow to you guys too sometime. Uh, so obviously I'm all brr, I don't know where I was. I was telling you guys something, but the good news is you're gonna see me do that quite a bit. But we'll get back to it later because truth is truth is truth. There's nothing anyone can do about that. Okay, and when you are recalling an actual story, you lived it, you heard it, you smelled it, you felt it. There was stuff around you. There's this 3D, sometimes 5D experience. Excuse me, I knew that was going to happen. I'm over here drinking generic Dr. Pepper by Kroger. Um, so it's called Dr. K. Uh, I gotta be honest with you guys. I didn't even think I'd be able to get this far, and so hopefully you'll come back and learn even more. I'm only here to empower you. I'm only here. I don't want to tell you how to think. What I want to do is give you options. I want to know that people have an opportunity, and what I know is truth. I have put my life on my line, and I've lost many fortunes. I was told straight up, you're not getting any of your trust funds, you're not getting any money because you're just going to get to that stupid church. And you know what? I stood my ground. I stood my power. I said, you know what? You're right. I would give it to the church because everything I have, everything I ever will have, will belong to the church. And I'm building an empire brick by brick for the Lord. I've been working very hard for a long time with no remuneration. I've already wrote How to Break Free from a Predator, as I told you. I don't take a penny for it. That wasn't even on purpose, though, because the company I'm dealing with is a little shady. And so, which is, hey, you know what I mean? In fact, let that be free. I'm doing a homeless survivor guide that I'm going to be releasing for gratis as well. I'd like my dream is to sit in every homeless shelter, welfare office, WIC office, fire station, so that people will know how to deal with it. Because let me tell you, homelessness was hard. Duh. It takes a lot out of you. And people treat you like crap. I mean, I love police, but there are even some, we always got bad apples, but you get treated immediately different. And if I make no other request of you, please start treating homeless people much better. And even if you see what you consider a bedraggled, indigent, degenerate, remember this might have been a very normal human being who was just absolutely smacked down by life. And a lot of times it doesn't come one blow at a time. It comes raining in on you. It's a regular cluster F. And so, like I said, in my case, have I been weighed down? But a lot more people are going to be going homeless soon. Like I said, this isn't the latter days, these are the last days. And the devil knows he only has so long to have his party. And his minions are bold, baby. They are playing their games. Honestly, witchcraft is on the corner store now. Witchcraft used to be forbidden for a reason. People didn't have TV and the internet. They had nothing better to do. And a lot of people did get advantage through witchcraft. People knew very well that this kind of stuff was existent. The whole founding of our country was supposed to be based on every man is the king of his own castle, because we were actually trying to escape the workhouses of Europe. If you didn't have, they call it right there, they did the same thing there that they're doing here. The Ancien regime, which is now taking over this new world order, as they call it. No, it's the old world order, rearing its ugly head again. The new world was America, where you could build a house, back in old Europe. If you were hunting, you were poaching, I mean, they were policing people right out of existence. If you didn't work in a factory or a big house, you went to the workhouse, where you were medically experimented on, you were raped, you were abused, and people didn't feel sorry for you, because they're like, hey, that's your motivation not to be there, and it literally was like poverty was criminalized, and that's happening here. And so, until we learn the lessons of history, we are doomed to repeat them. But they had the fake uh, Salem witch trials, which were actually held, concerted, and initiated by witches killing innocent Christians. That's why if you look back on some of the tests, you'll see how unfair they were. Well, if she floats, she's a witch. If she sinks, she was innocent. If she dies, what the heck? There's no way to win that. But that was their big excuse, to be able to uh, basically usher witchcraft in under the guise of religious freedom. America was not founded under religious freedom. I'm glad we have it. If it weren't for the religious freedom of America, we would not have been able to establish the church. I'm going to explain to you all the questions you could have about the Latter day Saint Church. And actually, it's not called that anymore. We're just simply the Church of Jesus Christ. Google it. We are the Church of Jesus Christ. And I'm very humble. Sorry. Oh, it's very overwhelming to think that the master of the universe, who's in charge of everybody, everything, down to the lowest maggot, would take time to come tell me on the toilet that this was the true church. And I dare not defy that. My last breath will be telling you that Jesus does live. Anyway, I'm going to explain it all to you. Why you're going to have heard a lot of bad things about this church, and I'm going to explain every bit of it to you, and then you're going to understand, because this church has been maligned in a way you can't understand. If we didn't have such exceptional people in it, even in Israel, they were like, hey, they're not allowed to proselyte and preach, but, what are we gonna do? Because the fact of the matter is, the other fellow was talking, he's like, there's nothing we can do. Literally, let Mormons, for like, it was a denigrating term. So was Christian. Those were both terms that were derisions. Saying you don't believe in God, you're a Christian. You worship Jesus. And Mormon, the same thing. They call us Mormon. And you know what? Hey, I'm cool with that. Don't call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner, right? Sticks and stones, dude. Actually, that's not true. Words can hit like a fist and affect you years later. But I do have to tell you, this is the true church. I'd lay my life on it. I have many times, and I've had miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. And I'm going to tell you about those miracles. And so, if you guys want it, if you have specific questions, this is supposed to be going on YouTube, inshallah, as we say in the Middle East. That means the will of God. I used to hate that. So I'm like, don't you tell me inshallah. Are you coming or not? But yeah. In the comment section, ask your questions. I just killed the speaker. That's why I've been here. Um, and that music you heard in the background, I just love. I used to have to get Sirius Radio and pay extra so that I could have that kind of music. I just love it. A lot of people think of it as passe, but I sure don't. Anyway, I'm going to go for less than a minute now because I want to end this at an hour. And if you stayed with me for the entire hour, you rock. Because quite frankly, when I start explaining things to people, because I'm really into history, religion, politics, and how they all converge with modern day and current events, and literally most people, their eyes just glaze over after about, maybe a minute or two. And so if you're still with me, you're exceptional. And I don't believe for a minute that you were accidentally brought to this video. We're going to spread this message far and wide because the Church of Jesus Christ is upon the earth right now. And these are the last days that we're going to have to deal with this Mishlogas. We had to build the church to where it could be, more far and widely known. And yeah, the devil and his minions are working real hard to get it. And unfortunately, a lot of people are forming members of the church. If the devil can't get you, he'll get your kid. And when you grow up in the people take things for granted that they get too easy. I feel sorry for the people who grew up in the church. Anyway, I'm gonna go in the name of Jesus Christ.